You obviously put yourself forward. You believe that you are the best woman for the job, best person for the job. Why do you think that you do a better job than other Leave candidates like Boris Johnson, like Michael Gove, and like the others, like Dominic Raab?
Well, I can only talk from, obviously, my perspective on this, and I know that I believe in Brexit, and I have said quite clearly that the 31st of October is the date we will be out, whether that's with a deal or without a deal, and that date now is cast in stone as far as I'm concerned. I know, too, that I've got to build trust with the public. We've got to have confidence in ourselves and our capabilities as the United Kingdom. And equally, what I want to see is also a new chapter in the Conservative sort of story. I want us to make sure that we're reaching out to the north, to the regions, to the whole of the country. I want to make sure that we've got our story of social mobility, as people will say, for me, from Bernardo's right the way all the way up to Cabinet. And this is a story of the Conservatives. We are about self-empowerment. We're about opportunities. We're about helping the next generation go further and farther. And also that's why I also launched Blue Collar Conservatives, to reach out and reconnect with the regular folk out there working, paying into the system, don't ask for much, so long as they and themselves get a fair crack at life.
But isn't that the problem?
Those are the people I'm helping.
No one's going to be talking about all the other issues, which undoubtedly are issues for this country. Education, hospitals, houses, goodness me, we need to get back to building houses, a key issue for lots of people. They're not going to get back to talking about that until we've resolved this whole Brexit issue. In terms of you're saying this deadline, October 31st, is cast in stone. No question at all. You will go for you'll try and renegotiate. You'll go for a no deal if not. And yet we've heard threats from Remainers in Parliament. Still 75% of the MPs in Parliament voted for Remain, that they will vote to revoke Article 50. The Speaker, John Bercow, has said basically he's staying on in the job, having said he'd retire from the job earlier, but basically he's staying on to make sure he can do the deed for the revoke Article 50 vote. The reality is, as Jeremy Hunt, the Foreign Secretary, has said, and he's one of the other leading contenders, that anyone who's pledging to go for a no deal on October the 31st is going to have to face a general election in which the Tories will be annihilated. Isn't that a bit of a risk?
Well, first of all, I won't be renegotiating. The door's open, and if the EU want to come back, that's fine. If Theresa May didn't manage to negotiate anything better and the EU says we're not doing any more, let's not waste our time with that. We now have to carry on with our no-deal preparations. That's what we need to be doing. But say, if you want to come back, then please do, but we will be leaving on the 31st of October. Now, if people want to do a vote of no confidence in their own government, and, we'll have to see if people will do that, knowing that they could put a Marxist government in power. Well, shame on them. What we should be doing is delivering the biggest ever democratic vote to the public. That's what we should be doing. And then, as you say, build on the foundations the Conservative Party have put in place. And that is a strong economy now, 3.5 million more people in jobs. And that's what we should be focusing on. And if anybody is giving that threatening talk of they would do that, and I can't see or believe that they would, then we will have to go to the country and explain clearly what we're doing. But I do not believe that the Conservatives would do that, knowing what the country would face and what destruction that could mean for our economy.
Well, we spoke to the former Conservative Deputy Prime Minister, Lord Heseltine, a few hours ago. He was saying that as a Remainer, as we are obviously a well-known Remain campaigner, that actually the party needs to reach out on the Remain side. Otherwise, we lost all those votes to the Liberal Democrats. They simply will never be in power again. You, on your side, obviously worried about the votes you've been losing to the Brexit party. The reality is, actually, the Tories do need to be all things to all men and women, don't they? They need to reach out on both sides before they're ever to be elected again, which is the biggest risk.
No, what you've got to do is you can't please everybody all the time. And on a sort of a binary choice like this, you cannot please everybody. Theresa May tried that and it does not work. So what you've got to say is, how are we now fair in our choice of direction? And that has to be what the democratic vote was. So you choose a side, you then deliver that, and then once we're outside the EU, we will then be bringing everybody together. Like I've pledged already to cut the foreign aid budget back to the 2010 levels of the Labour government, and that gives us an extra $7 billion a year, which I've pledged $4 billion to schools, $3 billion to the police, really key issues for the country. And then, once we're outside, so long as we've got our ideas in place, we can start delivering that there. So I'm not asking for extra money. I'm saying let's reprioritise our spend and focus on what people in the country want on that domestic agenda.
Before I let you go, Esther McVey, I must ask you about this court case being faced by Boris Johnson, one of your Tory leadership rivals. He's going to be facing a case of misconduct in a public office, an accusation made regarding that £350 million a week being given to the EU, written on the side of that big red bus back in the EU referendum campaign in 2016. What do you make of the decision to prosecute him?
Well, I think it's a ridiculous decision to take him to court, and I don't understand why it would go to court. This is a politically motivated case, and for politicians, you hold politicians to account by the votes they do or don't get at the next election. And I'm wondering which bit they're actually trying to hold him to account on. Now, if it's a $350 million, well, they should be pleased to know the government has already pledged $374 million extra to the NHS when we leave the EU. So it seems to me if Boris got anything wrong, it was to underestimate what they were going to give to the NHS once we leave the EU. But really, this is politically motivated. You don't solve that in a court. You solve that at the next election.